Hey everyone, it's Laura here and we are going to get into our Take Charge Thursday. This one is really fabulous for using up scrap bits of coloured cardstock, and it's a great opportunity to just look at how amazing Close to My Heart's cardstock is. And during this month, which is the month of April 2023, there is a special on the cardstock. Anyway, this was fabulous, and what I really want to highlight is these beautiful little strawberries in the background come from a stamp set that's available with the National Scrapbooking Day. So it's a cute little mouse stamp set. And when we look at these are all colouring in images, okay? And so we straight away go, okay, they're colouring in, but we don't always have to colour in our images. So this is really awesome tone on tone stamping. The other thing is we often look at an image and we automatically go to, this is a strawberry so it needs to be red, but as a crafter we can create any kind of background. So this is not a red background, it's just art. It is art. Okay, so that is what this Take Charge Thursday is about. It's about pulling out your colouring in images stamp sets, which we tend to try and push aside because we don't want to colour in a ton of images. Obviously we're going to just colour the one on the top. Now it really pops, and then but we're tone on tone stamping. Okay, so I'm just going to bring in my card base, and what I'm going to do on this particular card is I'm actually going to do this one as a landscape. So this is portrait, this one's going to be landscape, and I'm just going to give you the cutting size for this particular card, and then you're going to all run into your craft room and pull out all your coloured cardstock and have a go. I just know it. Anyway, each of these squares is 1 3/8 by 1 3/8, and then that means it fits 4 squares exactly across the card. Okay, so 1 3/8 by 1 3/8. Then I cut an extra 4 squares at 1 3/8 and 1 3/8, and then I just chopped one in half. I didn't even measure, I just eyeballed half and cut it because it's just going to go on either end, and then that's just going to infill the gap at either end, okay, and it offsets it and it just looks fabulous. Okay, then what I've done is I've gone and grabbed 5 ink colors that will tone on tone stamp. Now this particular color here, I don't have the actual matching ink. Don't stress if you don't have the exact matching ink to your cardstock. Close enough is good enough. Then what's really cool and really easy to do is just get line them up from lightest to darkest, and then you don't have to clean your stamp in between. You can just simply go ahead and stamp and then just continue to move, you know, onto the next color without actually having to do anything. So I am going to keep them in order though, because I've got them in a nice pattern already. So I'm going to start with my lightest one and get my lightest ink and just ink this up. I'm just going to actually stamp it a couple of times because I used blue on it before. Okay, and I'm just going to stamp it randomly onto my square, and then I'm going to run it through the ink pad just to give it a nice dark edge of that same ink, okay, and then place it back into position. I'm sorry you can't see that, but I'm just keeping it in the order over here. So then I'm grabbing the next light color. So I'm not even cleaning off between because I'm just moving up into darker colors, which means it's not going to contaminate the ink pad that I'm moving up into. If you went the opposite way and you went from dark to light, well then that's, you know, going to contaminate the lighter color ink ones. Okay, so that's 2 down. Moving on to this one, I've actually got 2 of this color square. So you can just imagine that you just endless, once again another endless scrappy using idea, which is just so cool, and just endless themes and ideas that you can use with this, and jump into those scraps. 1 3/8 by 1 3/8 is a pretty cool size. It's not too tiny to work with, but it's also not too big that you end up not finding scraps big enough, because I also have that problem sometimes, my scraps, because I'm a hoarder of paper scraps. No, but I am. So sometimes they're not even big enough for 1 3/8 by 1 3/8. All right, now moving on to color 4, and And got all these ones. And I really love random stamping. It's just a very awesome way to utilize these stamp sets that we purchase ourselves that go and end up in our storage and don't tend to be utilized as often because we go and pick a pretty patterned paper to use on our cards, when in fact we have the ability to create the pattern paper with our stamp sets. That's what's so cool. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4 edges, nice and fast. I'm almost there. I've only got 2 squares left to go. So again, this is also another, yes, it's using scrap, but it's also quite a quick process. And it would be especially quick if you set yourself up to do multiple at the same time. There is absolutely nothing wrong with doing multiple cards of the same design, because we don't send all our cards to the same people. So it doesn't matter if you have 4 of the same card in your stash, or you could gift a number of them unused to family and friends for them to then go and give and use with their family and friends. So, okay. Oops, forgot to do the edging. Let me just quickly grab that back. All right. Where are we at? So currently at 6.5 minutes and we're almost there. I know I didn't cut these in this time frame, but you can imagine cutting the squares doesn't take very long. 1 3/8 by 1 3/8, just in case you forgot to write it down. Write it down. All right, this one goes here, this one goes here. Okay, all the stamping's done. So I'm just going to bring in my base, my card base. I am going to give it a journal border just because there is a bit of excessive white showing, so I just like to add that little detail to my cards just to give it a little bit extra to the edging. Completely optional, of course. You wouldn't have to do it if you don't want. You can experiment. You could do some background stamping, splodgy stamps. There's all sorts of things you could do to add to this particular design that I'm sharing with you today. The other thing is, I think this would just make an absolutely superb border in your scrapbooking. Exact same technique. You could make it, instead of 2 wide, you can make it 3 wide, whatever it may be, and just stamp a theme on those squares in the background. Okay, so I'm just pulling them in now. I'm not actually butting them up hard to each other. In fact, I'd leave like the most minuscule of white gap between them. I find if you really push them up and butt them up against each other, you end up with a big white gap at the other end, just because our trimmers are great, but they're not 100% on cut size. We're human, we don't exactly hold it 100% on the cut size, so I just leave that tiny white gap. And as you can see, yeah, see there's a little bit of a gap all the way between. So if you start that little bit of a gap, then it doesn't matter when you get to the end if there's a little gap. All right, now I'm just going to stick the second row on. So like I said, you can see it can definitely be portrait or it can be landscape. It doesn't matter for this particular design. Just get those all on. How cool does it look in purple? I think it looks really, really delightful in purple. All right. What have I done? Nothing. I don't think I've done anything. Oh no, it's 2 different colours. Now that it's stamped, it didn't look so different. Okay, it's all good. And one more. Okay. Beautiful. Look at that. Okay, and then from the mice stamp set, I did cut, stamp and cut out 2 cute little mice, and then thinking of you friend. So that's what I love about this, is we create that art in the background of a color, and then we put an actual stamped image that we've colored in on top, and it just pops. It just looks so cool. So yeah, so thinking of you friend, I thought this was ideal, with a little mousy friend holding out a flower to its other friend. Just a little bit of thin 3D foam tape just to make sure it just pops off of that artwork we've created. We create art, guys. Don't ever dismiss what you do as not art. It is art. And you're so clever for doing it. And even if you've had to learn from somebody else, if you take the time to do it and you sit down and you do it, then you are an artist and you are a creative person, and you are just so doing wonderful things in this world by creating joy. Right. A little bit more thin 3D foam tape, a little bit fiddly on the tail, but I don't want that tail to break off. So I want that stuck down. And the other little mouse, aren't they just adorable? They're so cute. Okay. I know you're going to run to your craft rooms now. I know you're just thinking, oh my gosh, what a great way to use up all these scraps, but it becomes so arty-farty. It's awesome. All right, almost there. One more little piece on the tail. Yes, I fussy cut these out. There was no thin cut, but totally worth it. It was fiddly, but totally worth it. Almost there. Alrighty. Oh, look at it. So cute. Okay, and then simply just to finish it off, because sometimes it just needs a little bit of something else, I'm just going to add on a few little dots just to add a little extra. There we go. My 3 dots, always in my odds and in a triangle shape. Okay, so there we go. That is Take Charge Thursday. Look at it in the blue and the purple. So cool. I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it, and I hope you too also love it. Thanks guys, bye.